He follows an alien into his spaceship. Then he is rejected and sent back to Earth. On October 25th, 1974, Carl Higdon left home before sunrise for what he believed would be a normal hunting trip. He was 41 years old, a father of 4, and a foreman at an oil drilling company, a man who paid his bills, loved his family, and kept a low profile, the kind of man whose name you would never expect to see in the newspapers. The mountains near Rawlins, Wyoming, were quiet that morning. For Carl, hunting in these remote lands was routine, but before the day was over, he would experience something that would follow him for the rest of his life. He took his rifle, a brand new 7mm Magnum. He kissed his wife Marjorie and drove deep into the Medicine Bow National Forest. The area was isolated, quiet, miles away from the nearest town. Surrounded by dense forest and rugged mountains, it was the kind of place where you could walk for hours without seeing a soul. Around 4 p.m., he parked his pickup truck and began tracking elk. After several hours, Carl finally spotted a group of 5 elk. Slowly raising his rifle, he carefully aimed at the largest male. It was the perfect shot. But the moment he pulled the trigger, something impossible happened. There was no sound, no bang, just silence. Instead of striking the elk, the bullet seemed to slow down in midair until it came to a complete stop about 15 meters in front of him, as if it had struck something invisible, as if time itself had suddenly changed. The bullet fell into the snow. The elk stopped moving. The wind stopped blowing. Even the sounds of the forest disappeared. Everything around Carl was completely still. He moved forward slowly and picked up the rifle bullet. It was burning hot and completely deformed. Carl stared, stunned at the rifle bullet. It was at that moment that he sensed a presence. Then, from the trees, a strange figure appeared. A 6-foot-tall humanoid creature slowly walked toward him. Humanoid, but not human. It was dressed in a tight-fitting black suit that looked almost like a wetsuit. Its skin was pale, yellowish. No chin, no neck, no ears. Small, slanted eyes without eyebrows. At the top of its skull, 2 stem-like antennae pointed upwards. The being wore a wide belt with a 6-pointed star. Its arms were unusually long. At the end of his right arm was a cone-shaped appendage. His left arm ended at the wrist. The being was not walking. It was floating above the snow. It approached even closer. Carl wanted to run, wanted to shout, but his body wouldn't respond. And then the being spoke. Without moving its lips, the being asked Carl,
"Are you hungry?"
Before he could answer, a package floated toward him. He grabbed it. 4 pills were inside.
"Take one."
Carl swallowed one without hesitation, as if he had no choice. According to Carl, the creature introduced itself as Oso-1. The being spoke calmly, explaining that it came from another planet. The being then asked Carl a strange question.
"Do you want to travel with us?"
Carl looked beyond being, and for the first time he saw in the clearing a large transparent box. The being raised its cone-shaped appendage, pointed it towards Carl, and everything went black. When Carl opened his eyes, he was sitting in the box on a smooth, cold seat. His arms and head were held down by something invisible. Above him, in the transparent ceiling, he could see the 5 elk floating motionless. 3 beings were also with him, the one from the forest and 2 others. Carl said weakly,
"You have my elk."
One of the beings shrugged, a strangely human gesture. That's when the box rose into the sky. No vibration, no sound, just total silence. During its ascent, Carl looked down and saw his pickup truck parked among the trees in the distance. One of the beings waved its hand and the pickup disappeared. Carl's next memory is fragmented. He remembers being in a spaceship and seeing Earth, a distant blue marble. Inside the spaceship, Carl claimed he saw several other humans. They were motionless, almost as if they were being stored. One of the beings spoke again.
We are returning home. Our planet is 163,000 light years away.
Disoriented, Carl knew that this sentence was strange. They placed a helmet on his head with 6 wires pointing in all directions, and then he couldn't see anything anymore. When the light returned, he found himself standing in a blinding light. Before him lay a space so vast he couldn't see its limits. At the center of it all stood a very tall tower, with lights swirling at its summit. At the base of the tower, he saw humans again, men, women, and children, standing and talking to each other as if they lived there. 2 beings guided Carl, levitating beside him along a long walkway. They entered a large room. A few moments later, one of the beings approached and spoke to Carl.
You are not what we are looking for. We will take you back home.
Carl was brought back into what he now understood to be a spaceship. He was accompanied by the being of the forest, the one who had approached him first. The being, also one, explained that he was a hunter and that his species had been coming to Earth for many years, hunting animals to turn them into food pills.
We use these pills to feed ourselves. Our ocean has turned yellow and all our fish have been killed.
He showed Carl a map, or something like a map. 9 planets in his solar system, he explained. One also examined Carl's rifle with curiosity.
I would like to keep this primitive weapon, but I am not allowed to.
He told Carl that his black suit allowed him to protect himself from the Earth's sun.
Your sun burns us in the same way that our sun blinded you.
Carl looked down. The forest was beneath him again, and suddenly Carl fell. He hit the ground violently, a sharp pain piercing his shoulder. He lay there in the snow, confused. The craft was gone. The forest was quiet again. He found a road and followed it until he saw a pickup truck that he didn't recognize at first, but he got in anyway. The CB radio was on. Voices crackled through the interference. A voice came clearly.
Roy Fleming here. Is anyone there?
I don't know.
Carl murmured.
I'm so cold.
Where are you?
I don't know. I'm in a pickup truck.
It was 6:30 p.m. when Carl's employer, Roy Fleming, alerted the authorities. Carl Higdon was reported missing. His frantic wife, Marjorie, had already called them earlier that day. Carl had gone hunting early that morning. He should have been back by now. The sheriff, Charles Hogeboom, organized a search team. 4 hunters and 2 deputies. Marjorie, her friend Marilyn James, and her husband set off in a van to search for Carl. The authorities asked them to wait on a hill overlooking the forest. It was there that they all saw a bright, moving light in the sky, flashing red, then green, then white. They witnessed these strange lights for nearly 20 minutes. Later, while they were waiting for the team to return, they saw something else, a huge reddish-orange glow rising on the horizon. They thought it was sunrise, but the real sunrise didn't come for hours. The search team found Carl's pickup truck at 11:40 p.m., 5 kilometers from where he had parked it. It was stuck in a mud puddle so deep the vehicle was almost submerged. There were no tire tracks leading to the site, no road, no trail. It was as if the pickup had been dropped from the sky. The deputies had to lay planks across the muddy ground to reach the vehicle. Inside, Carl sat shivering. His eyes were watering. His shoulder was hurting. When Marjorie approached, he stared at her and asked her not to touch him when she tried to put her coat over him.
They took my elk,
he murmured. On the way to Rawlins Memorial Hospital, Carl asked Roy Fleming a strange question.
Why aren't you dressed in black? The sun doesn't burn you?
At 2 a.m., Carl was admitted to the emergency room. Dr. Tonko examined him. No fractures, no drugs in his system, but Carl was suffering from amnesia and severe dehydration. He couldn't remember his name. Dr. Tonko ordered x-rays for Carl, and what he noticed was extremely disturbing. A few years earlier, Carl had been treated at this hospital for tuberculosis, which should have left scars on his lungs, but the x-rays showed nothing. The scars had completely disappeared. It was impossible. Carl had also suffered from kidney stones for years. They too had disappeared. His blood tests showed abnormally high vitamin levels, as if he had received a massive nutritional boost. In the days that followed, Carl's memory slowly returned. He told investigators what he remembered: the silent forest, the slow-motion bullet, the being, the ship, the blinding world where he had found himself. He described everything in detail. He even took a lie detector test, which he passed, then a second one, which he also passed. Psychiatrist Leo Sprinkle, who taught at the University of Wyoming, conducted regressive hypnosis sessions. Under hypnosis, Carl recalled more details: the medical examination performed by the beings, the other humans he had seen on the ship, and his belief that he had been rejected because of his vasectomy, as the beings were conducting some kind of reproductive experiment, and therefore he was not a match. Dr. Sprinkle concluded that Carl was telling the truth. There was no sign of mental illness. The bullet that Carl had recovered was sent to Mr. Walker, a metallurgy consultant. Mr. Walker examined it carefully. It was as if the bullet had been turned inside out, he said. He didn't know how that was possible. The bullet was then sent to the University of Wyoming for further analysis. It disappeared from a locked safe. No one knows what happened to it. Until his death in 2022, Carl Higdon never changed his version of events. He never sought fame or profit from his story. Only his wife Marjorie, 43 years after the events, decided to publish a book titled Alien Abduction of the Wyoming Hunter. She wrote it, she said, because she felt obliged to, asserting that some stories must be told even if no one believes them. Decades later, the case still raises questions. Was it an alien encounter? At least that's what Carl, for the rest of his life, considered the most accurate explanation for what happened to him.
I know what I saw.
He said, over the years, researchers have compared Carl's case to other disappearances in the region. In October 2019, 45 years later, a hunter named Mark Anthony Strittmatter disappeared in the Medicine Bow National Forest. Authorities and rescue teams deployed ground crews, search dogs, aircraft, and even drones, but he was never found. Before his disappearance, Mark had reported seeing a black UFO following him. Was he also taken? And if so, why wasn't he brought back to Earth? Carl Higdon believes he was spared because he couldn't reproduce, that he failed the reproductive tests the beings were conducting. It seems others weren't so lucky. Have you ever seen something you shouldn't have seen? Write it in the comments. Subscribe to the channel to discover the next most documented stories of alien encounters.